Hello, Corinna. We're
Hi,
live.
hi, Ching.
How are you?
Fine. How are you? Thank you
I'm
for
good.
having me.
I'm good. Thank you so much. Today, I am chatting with Corinna Fales, writer and activist, and she actually, you were my neighbor, but
Hmm.
now you're living in North Carolina. So thanks to the technology, we can have a conversation like this
Right,
across the country. So
right.
before we start the conversation, I would like to introduce Karina. I would like to read a short biography from her book. It's called This Book is Not a Safe Space: The Unintended Harm of Political Correctness. So here we go. Her biography in the back of the book looks like that is what makes a lifelong activist who has promoted diversity and social justice since childhood, contend that politically correct culture undermines inclusion and hurts the people it is intended to protect. In this book is not a safe space. Corinna Falls tells you in a punchy, funny, personal way how she realized that PC is a body uh, booby trap. Booby trap. Corinna, whose parents' families were murdered by the Nazi, grew up at the first historically black college/university before desegregation. She visited migrant camps as a girl, went to jail for civil rights, and slept in her bathtub to avoid the National Guard's bullets when Newark exploded in 1967. In 1968, she protested the Vietnamese War, who was thrown into Cook County Jail and became an unintended co-conspirator of the Chicago Seven. Welcome, Corina. What a life.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So, where should we start? Can we talk about a little bit? I want to talk about your book mainly, but let's talk about a little bit about your childhood and your upbringing, please.
Oh boy. Surprise questions. Well, I mean, it was really a great treasure of my life to grow up at Lincoln University, which is the first historically black college. Thurgood Marshall went there. Einstein spoke there. I mean, it was an incredible place to live. And when my father died, when I was 8, we moved to the adjoining poor community, largely black also and rural. And I feel like that it was very hard, but I'm very grateful for that gift because I feel like a lot of that really made me who I am, to sort of live on both sides of the tracks, so to speak. So that's very deeply who I am and what I care about to this day. Um, I was raised to have a lot of ethics and values, and as were pretty much all of the kids around there. So the inside of my house it was very different from the outside, in the sense that my parents were German Jewish refugees. My first language was German. And then outside was largely black, and our house was right by the soccer field. So all the African students, I would go out and they'd all be playing soccer, and we had a great team. And it just was a very vibrant community to grow up in, and I'm very grateful for it. And then, as I said, the inside, it was just entirely different to sort of come from this European immigrant family, and there's opera, and there's opera outside as well. But it was a good mix, and I learned a lot, both living on the campus and living in the village. So I'm grateful for all of it.
Yes, yes. So tell us a little bit about your second book. the one we refer to, this book is not a safe space. The unintended harm of political correctness. So first of all, I have a question is, can you define what is political correctness?
I know that's the thing that's missing from the book, among who knows what else. But several people said that to me, and I was like, "How did I do that?" But it's hidden. It's embedded in there. But basically, I think it's very simple. I think it's just a set of rules about language and maybe some action, and actions, so that you don't offend somebody else. Basically, that's what it's for. And I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with what it's become, and we can talk more about that. But I think the basic idea is as simple as that, and I'm all in favor of that. That's not a problem to me.
Yeah, so this book is very personal, and it's certain places funny and very bold, I would say. And yeah, and let me see, the introduction is nice. Can I read a little bit? Yeah. So
Sure.
it says part of it says, my purpose is to demonstrate how and why I developed my unexpected understanding that political correctness, PC, creates unintended harm, a point of view that evolved from doing some deep and disagreeable work on myself. And also, you said later, PC is a loaded, heavy hearted topic. The only way I know how to simulate stimulate open new dialogue about it is to address it in a heartfelt, personal way. Very beautiful. So tell us, do you have in this short, this book is about, let me see how many pages, I would say 115 pages. So and has chapters. Let's see, you have 28 chapters, and some are very short. Some chapters 1 page, and
Yep.
some chapters more, and very interesting. So do you have one chapter you want to now to introduce to us, such as the 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 jail you went?
Yes, thank you for that. And I actually, because that would be a little long to read, I have just edited it way down. So hopefully it is shorter. I should explain, though, that that's the part I needed to say before. There's a long road that took me from where I was working in Newark to Chicago in '68. I think I can start with this part, though. Most people don't even know that there were any unindicted co-conspirators attached to the Chicago 7 trial, let alone 16 of us. I was one of 3 women who were arrested together and included on that list. We 3 were probably the most high profile because the Chicago Tribune ran an article on our arrest. To fill you in on what happened, I'm going to read to you from chapter 3 of my book. This excerpt may prompt you to recall what a government informer said in the Chicago 8 conspiracy film about John Freund's making butyric acid, incendiary devices, etc. It's interesting that I still can't remember how our case was resolved or what happened with the 2 other women I was arrested with. Our trial was separated from the boys, probably for sexist reasons. And I think that I was, in the end, warned to behave and eventually sent on my way. So now to an excerpt from this chapter called Cook County Jail. Cook County was my last arrest and the only one I'm not proud of. Threatened with beatings, rape, and a sentence of 25 years, I had only put myself in harm's way to impress a man I had worked with in Newark. When you lose your integrity and you sacrifice yourself for something you don't believe in and are not proud of, you'd better learn something from it, and you'd better be prepared for the consequences, because it is totally different from taking a risk for something you know is right. Most of the time in Chicago, I was working at headquarters in communications. It just occurred to me, do people know about, do they know about the demonstrations at the Chicago 68 Democratic Convention? Or do I need to fill that in? Because normally
Yeah.
that was, okay,
Yeah,
that's
sure.
clear. It's clear what I'm talking about, or?
No. I think you should lay out a little bit what is
Okay, because
the background.
I had that in here, but it's not in the chapter itself. Well, basically, I mean, I worked in Newark for a number of years. I went to, then the summer of '68, there was a huge anti-war protest against the Vietnam War at the Democratic National Convention. And it became, it was huge. It was put together by a group of organizations that had sort of somewhat different aims. And it became very violent and it went down in history as a really big deal trial. So there were originally 8 men indicted on conspiracy charges. And then Bobby Seale, who was one of the heads of the Black Panthers, his trial was removed from it. So it became the Chicago 7. And that's where I was an unindicted co-conspirator of that group that said, basically, we had come to Chicago to start a riot. That was kind of it. Okay. So most of the time in Chicago, I was working at headquarters in communications. But after the police tear gas demonstrators, one of the guys in the leadership with whom I had worked closely in Newark asked a few of us women, all women, of course, if we would be willing to, quote, bring the tear gas inside the hotels where the convention delegates were housed and the meetings were held. He said women could get more easily past security. I volunteered because he was a big cheese to us, and I wanted him to think I was cool. I also didn't want to be the one woman in that tiny select group who refused, but I thought it was a silly, stupid, meaningless thing to do. It was not like me at all, and it made me very uncomfortable. It also turned out to be a hell of a way to get my mug in the Chicago Tribune. 3 of us went to a club in the Palmer House in Chicago with vials of butyric acid in our purses. Butyric acid smells like vomit. And one spilled it onto the carpet beneath the table where we sat. A couple of large men immediately popped up out of nowhere and took her away. But they completely disregarded the other 2 of us. They must not have realized that we were together. We split up and went separate ways. I could have gotten away if I had just left, but no. I sat down in the lobby of the hotel trying to decide what to do about my vial of butyric acid and my friend who had gotten caught. I felt guilty that I was free, and so perhaps did the other woman who got away, because we both ended up getting caught. And then, just as I made a half-hearted, decided move to leave, I spied a Newark judge in whose court I had appeared for one of my arrests. Apparently, he was a convention delegate from New Jersey. I was outraged that he should represent anyone, and I spun around, went back toward the Palmer House, and ducked into the women's room, where I emptied my butyric acid in a large planter, as if that were an act of real retribution for the judge's wrongs, and as if he used the ladies' room. Ridiculous, but I felt I couldn't leave without emptying my vial. Then I went back to see what had happened to my friend, found the room where they were holding her, and peered inside. Yep, I stood there peering like an idiot. And of course, that's when I got arrested. They separated us for questioning. The DA threatened to beat me with rubber hoses because they don't leave marks, he said. He gleefully told me what the female inmates would do to us, and he read off the list of felony charges he intended to press that would get us 25 to life. I was stone-faced. I hated him too much to show fear or say a word. You can do anything you want to me, I thought. I will not crack. They threw us in the jail. Now, I had always been able to talk to anyone because I'm genuinely interested in people, and I don't think I'm better than anybody. I had nothing against these inmates, all of whom, as I recall, were Black and overtly lesbian. And I wasn't scared. They were not alien to me. Only they were. They were huge, they were cold, they were predatory, and they were tough as hell. They lived in a completely open cell block without a second of privacy. It That place would have stripped you of any humanity you had just to survive. I tried talking to one woman and she just shot back that they were going to get me that night. So no, I did not have a conversation with her or any of the other inmates. Fear does not describe what I felt. Then suddenly, 20 minutes before lockdown for the night, we were told that some Chicago liberals had bailed us out. I have never been so grateful before or since. Cook County was a terrifying lesson about my integrity. The guy who put me up to it did not make me do that idiotic stunt. I did it. And I learned from it not to sacrifice myself again for anything or anyone I do not fully embrace. I also learned that low roads do not lead to anywhere I want to be or to anyone I want to be with. Sound harsh? Well, it was a harsh lesson. Chicago changed me, and that was a good and necessary thing. I could go on, but I can stop there too.
Yeah. So what an experience. So from this experience, do you now, looking back, you think you should have got away with it? You should not have, sat there and try to, be brave or try to be good to other people that you eventually get caught. How did you feel afterwards? Or do you feel justified?
I think that once I had agreed to do it, I was in an impossible situation. It wouldn't have felt right just abandoning my friend. I also didn't feel right doing what I did. I mean, there was no good solution at that point. The thing is to never have agreed to do it. That's all. I mean, that's really,
yeah.
After that, yeah.
So, do you, after that incident, would you say like you will avoid being, arrested, or do you say, "Hey, I know how does that feel? I can handle this." How did you really talk to yourself afterwards?
I didn't make a decision about anything going forward. I think I would get arrested now if something that I really thought it would work and that it would help. And my other arrests were in their own way, I mean, scary, but really not. They were wonderful experiences because they were really civil rights arrests and we were singing freedom songs and the whole spirit of it was very different. And that kind of really wonderful reason for going to jail and the love that's sort of all around you is something I would absolutely do again. So at the time I was really traumatized after that. And also I had to leave Newark and I had nowhere to go. And I didn't realize it till I got out of Cook County jail. And all of a sudden everybody was leaving Chicago and I had nowhere to go. So I was having tough times. Yeah. So I went on to organize GIs against the war in Vietnam when I left there, and I went to New York and did a whole lot of other stuff, with GIs and a bunch of other stuff, but I never did go back to jail.
So, very interesting. Now, your book actually touches many things. Humanity, touches inclusionness, people prejudice, touches the gender issue. So you're very brave to touch many things. Now, I like to read one section from your chapter 5. What is your story? It's called. And this section actually is part of a first book, I believe. You said that sections. I think my parents were busy using opportunity. It's from an interview from your person, right?
From my friend Marita, yes, who was Black.
Yeah. So I think my parents were busy using opportunity to explore race to their children in ways that would not deflate and defeat us. I remember asking my mother, but who? But why don't white people like us? Why? Why? I can still hear the frustration in her voice uh, when she finally said, because Martina, the white man is preposterous. How do you say that? Preposterous.
Preposterous.
Sorry, preposterous.
Preposterous.
Oh, that's a difficult one for me. Preposterous.
Yes.
Yeah. Ha ha ha. I said, okay, okay. So tell me about that.
What to tell you? I'm not sure what you're
Oh,
asking.
oh, okay. So it intrigues to me. Let me finish. So laugh. I said, okay, okay. So if they did not like me, it was on them. It had nothing to do with me. They were perpetrators.
That's all.
That was terrific. Laugh. I was remember my mother explaining that our people came from Africa. She didn't explain slavery, just that we were rooted somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that is interesting. The mother said to the child, right? The white
Right.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, I mean, I spoke to Ching earlier. I said I almost feel like I should have written my second book first, my first book second. The first book is an interview-based book, and that's part of one of the interviews, of Black and white kids that grew up together in Lincoln University, where I grew up. And it really is a model for, I mean, you can see there, it's perfectly honest. There's nobody's shying around, I'm white or I'm Black, or nobody's being delicate. It's just a talk. And it really is a model. I feel like I wish I'd written it second, because I feel like, oh, well, this is, if you want to know how this can work, this is how it works. Here's an example of how it works. And that was the kind of conversation that, I mean, although when we were really little, people actually we didn't talk about race a lot, but people did there, and they do now, and it's just very open and honest. And I loved it that Marita's mom, who was just an incredible woman, shared the part that was about who they are, not about what they are, not because Black people aren't slaves. That's not who Black people are. And so that's a story about a terrible thing that happened. I'm not minimizing it, but it's not who Black people are. It's an experience that Black people had, and they have experiences now. And so I just like it that she explained it in a real, down-to-earth way, but just a very loving way that had to do with rootedness, and not a terrible story.
Mm-hmm. Right. I'm showing our audience. Can you see this? I'm showing our audience.
Oh, yeah.
This is the page of Amazon. This is Corinna's first book. It's called Different. Right.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
first book. The second book is this book is not as a safe space. Now, tell me a little bit about other artwork. What is this little bird over there represent? Do you have any thought about that?
I love cockatoos and cockatiels, and parrots for that matter, but especially if I were to have a pet, it would be a cockatiel. And so I had had a character, a friend of mine who's a professional artist had created a character for me for some PowerPoints that I was going to use to teach common errors in English usage. And I wanted like a fun character. And I said, make me a cockatiel. And she made this cockatiel. And then when I was trying to figure out what to put on the book, I went, Charlie has to go on the front of the book, but he needs to be all florkled, with his feathers and stuff. So she basically just took the image that she'd made of Charlie, which I own, and made him all fluffed up like that and nutty. So it was just, that's the origin of it. It has nothing to do with the book per se, except that, he's slipping on a banana peel, because I feel like political correctness is slippery business.
I see. Yeah.
So Yeah, and I needed something, striking for the cover of the book. That's all.
Yeah, we have some audience here. Nick Rivera said, "Is it ruffled feathers?"
You could say that, yes.
So funny. And then we have another friend here, Judith. Says, first thing I think of
Oh,
bird is
that's interesting.
Billboard metaphor.
Judith
Yeah,
is a smart cookie.
yeah, yes, very
That's
good.
true.
Yeah, so let me bring this off
Interesting.
to us. Yes. So now, uh, interestingly, you told a lot of stories. One story struck to me is that you always think you're part of all species. You love black people, you love all kinds of
I
people,
do.
and then one day you were mugged by black people in the stairway and follow you into your apartment. Oh my god. So tell us a little bit about that experience.
Oh, I feel like I would want to read that because it's so funny. Did you think it was funny? I thought it was funny.
It was
But
funny.
I don't know how to tell it
Like they're
better
giving
than
you a
to
therapy
read from it.
afterwards. One person is giving you a marriage therapy.
I don't know I don't know a
Funny.
better way to. I mean, maybe I can read part of
Yeah,
it because I
yeah,
can't.
please.
I call the chapter "Stupid Is as Stupid Does."
Yeah,
In this
yeah,
case, that would be me.
yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
says, when I got out of Cook County, it suddenly dawned on me, this is what I was saying before, that I hadn't given a lick of thought to the next step of my life. Having to leave Newark was so painful for me that I hadn't focused on the future. I suddenly had nowhere to go. So when a group of protesters, this is so flaky, when a group of protesters asked if I wanted a ride to New York, I simply said, okay, and got in the car. That's how I got to where I spent the next 50 years in a place I never belonged. I landed on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, at that time a funky, poor, druggy community, now gentrifying, and soon thereafter met Buzz, who later became my husband. After some months, Buzz and I began living together in the 6th-floor rear apartment of a tenement. As I told you in a previous chapter, I learned a lot of things in Newark that white folks aren't supposed to know. My white relatives wouldn't even drive anywhere near the neighborhood where I lived, but I walked home by myself late at night and thought nothing of it. I had no fear or good sense, my black friends would say. I was loved and protected and felt honored to be able to live there, which is not in any way intended to diminish the dreadfulness of what people went through there. I deeply loved most of the people I got to know in Newark, many of whom have since died, some of whom I'm still in touch with. Let's see if I can shorten this. Ongoing brutality was visited on many of them by everyone from the welfare board to the police, who, for example, changed one 16-year-old friend, she was 15, I found out, to a radiator and beat her. We could hear it through the walls of our office, which was next to the precinct. What I witnessed in Newark was so horrendous that I came to believe that white people only accused black folks of criminal behavior because they were racist. I believe that any black person accused of any crime by any white person was automatically innocent. I'm not referring to our historic and heinous, unequal application of the law, which is a whole other topic, just to the idea that any white person ever truthfully accused any black person of a crime. I had my own PC world before PC. I thought it was based on fact. Now, there's a famous line in the movie Forrest Gump, stupid is as stupid does. In this case, that would be me. When we ignore our gut because we're afraid of being racist or some other form of not PC, we can be very stupid. We can also be very stupid when we're trying to be PC and mean well, but we don't understand that our words or actions are racist. Anyway, one summer afternoon, Buzz and I came home to our unlocked building and 2 black guys followed us into the hallway. As we picked up our mail, they loud talked to each other about buzzing their friend upstairs and whether he would be at home, etc. In other words, they practically shouted that they were going to mug us. But we paid them no mind, partly because we were focused on our own conversation, and partly because I knew that black people didn't commit crimes. Not against me, at any rate. Oh, the conceit. Anyway, After we got our mail, Buzz and I sauntered up the stairs chatting, blah, blah, blah. And the guys ran past us and waited on the landing above. When we got there, they jumped us. One put a knife to Buzz's neck. The other threatened me with brass knuckles. I wasn't scared, and I wasn't about to give him my little bit of money. I don't know what Buzz told the guy with the knife, but I told Mr. Brass Knuckles that I didn't have any money. They told us to take them to our apartment, apparently to get what money they thought we kept there. 5 flights up, we finally walked into our rear-facing apartment, and the guy with the knife went over to our windows and cut the ties on the curtains. They closed with a soft, creepy swish. My heart sank. I thought, it's curtains for us. And it was my fault for refusing to give up my money. I knew that the guy who had a knife on Buzz, let's call him Jimmy, was very dangerous, while the guy who was on me, let's call him Roy, still had some heart. So I knew I had to talk fast to make some personal connection with Roy, because Jimmy had taken Buzz down the hall into the bedroom. I had no idea what was happening, but I knew enough to be concerned for his life. I told Roy that he shouldn't be robbing people like me. I only made $20 a week, which was true then. He should rob my fancy boss on Madison Avenue. He said he would be... It's all true. I couldn't make this up if I tried. He said,
awesome. Glad.
He said he would be happy to do that if I would help him. I said a bunch of other things that I don't remember. And then I asked him what his friend was going to do to Buzz. He said he didn't know and asked me if I needed Buzz. Needed Buzz? Oh, hell no, I thought. I was a badass and a feminist. I didn't need anybody. So I dodged the question. I said, well, maybe I love Buzz. Roy looked annoyed and impatient and started lecturing me. Why was I shacking up with my boyfriend if I loved him and needed him? When you love and need somebody, you should get married. He kept asking me what the hell I was thinking by not getting married. He gave me a freaking morals lecture. Yes, he did. We all have our principles.
Oh my God.
Then Jimmy came back with Buzz and some rope and told Buzz and me to sit on the couch. He and Roy tied up our feet. By then I'd had the sense to fork over my little money. I told them to leave me enough for car fare, as we used to call money for the subway, so I could get to work on Monday. They did. I also said that the ropes on my feet were too tight. They loosened them. Plus, Roy told me to remember what he said about getting married. Then he said they would kill us if we called the cops or anyone else. And they left. Should I read the rest of it or not?
No, it's okay.
I can stop there.
It's pretty funny. It's oh my God. Yeah. That was funny. So
that taught me a little lesson, you could say. I've had some hard lessons, Ching.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was dangerous. Yeah. It really was.
Right. So what could have you done? You should not walk up to your apartment, you know?
Well, I should. Right. I mean, the thing is, if I weren't so busy thinking what I used to think, it's like a month after that, and I say it in the book, I was walking down the street, and I knew there was a pack of 4 guys, like a little ways behind me, and I could tell, because I'm not street stupid. It's just that I had my mind set a certain way. Mm-hmm. So I knew they were going to come after me, and I was in clogs.
Yeah.
And I hit the door and I started running. I ran up 6 flights of stairs, and they just were behind me when I got to the 6th floor. And when they heard somebody inside the apartment, they left. So the point is, use your smarts, use your gut, listen to your gut, use your common sense. I mean, really, it's quite simple. It doesn't mean that you can always avoid getting mugged, but we could have we would have just turned around and not gone in the building. Mm-hmm. That would have been the other thing to do, is just stay on the street. Right. Because there were people out. So, you know, but because of this construct in my head.
Yeah. Or giving him some money, right? Whatever you have, like, you know, like $20, you know, whatever you have.
But see, I had friends like that, and I just wasn't scared of them at all. See, most people would be scared. I'm like, screw you. I know people like you. You don't scare me. Yeah, you know, so I just, until they did. Scare me. Yeah. And you're like consciously you think you're their friend, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, all your life you're with people
different from you, you know.
Yeah,
So
they weren't strange to me.
right.
They were not at all. In fact, my friend Carol said, she said, "Oh, I just talked to them like I talked to this guy we used to know in Newark together." She's somebody I worked with, and she said, she said, "Oh, I remember you told me you just talk to him like he was Jesse M." And I thought, oh, well, I don't remember that, but it would make sense. They didn't seem strange to me,
Yeah.
or dangerous to me, not strange. Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of a political correctness, now I was just thinking, the political world right now. You know, we just went over this 2020 election. Now we have more election in 2021, right? Including New York City mayor. So have you ever, when you look at these politicians, uh, what's in your mind? Do you because they have to be correct, politically correct, when they say most of their BS, you know? So how so you are so honest in your book, yeah, express your thoughts and your way of thinking. So can you tell us a little bit of how you are justified when politicians say certain things, and do you how do you feel, how do you yeah, is it difficult for you to vote for anyone because you think they're not, you know, being honest, or they're not being sincere?
Well, they're not. I mean, let me put it this way. I do think that Biden is, he has more heart because he's been through a lot than a lot of other people do. And I think that's genuine about him. And everybody who knows him says that about him. And I think right now, heart is what's important. We've gone real far with our heads and computers and technology and all this other stuff. But what's missing is a heart for people who are not like us, people who disagree with us. And I think the entire system is bought and sold, period. Like it's gone to corporations. That's it. It's got nothing to do with we people anymore. It's got to do with money. It all has to do with money. And the more money you spend on campaigns, the more you're going to want from super PACs. And to me, it's completely a rotten system. I say that, however, with a great deal of love for this country, because I also feel that I, along with other, especially lefties, didn't for a long time appreciate the fact that this country has been asked to do something that no other country has been asked to do. And I know that's a funny way to talk, but that's the best way I can put it. There is no place else that has tried to have this level of sort of democracy, with this level of diversity, with all of these combinations of things. And it's a big challenge. And I do think that it's an extraordinary place to be. And I'm grateful for it, which I was not for many years. I only saw the things that were wrong with it. And now I get that a lot of right wingers can't stand that about left wingers, who are always complaining about the country and never saying anything that's good about it. You know, my parents were refugees. I'm glad to be alive. But I do think that it is, since my lifetime, when there was kind of a social contract of some kind between employers and employees. And I'm not saying it was good, don't get me wrong, but it's gone absolutely to hell. I mean, there's not a shred of commitment to each other and anymore. It's just all about making money, and that's it. So I want to see what happens. I don't know how long. I think the divide that we see is being fed by the press on both sides. It's being fed by people who make money off it. It is not in our interest, but I don't know how to get people to see that, although I'm working with a group called Braver Angels, and they work across the aisle. That's what they do. But to me, that's our big challenge. And I don't know how to deal with that realistically and face it if we're caught up in this BS about all these little PC niggly, you said this, and you're focus, like people, it's a sidetrack and it's a trap. To me, I feel like we need to focus on what's really happening here with people. And instead, you have students calling out professors for saying things like, on the other hand, because it's an ableist remark.
Yeah.
I mean, when on the other hand becomes an ableist remark, I don't even know where to go with that. I can't. And that's why I care a lot about this topic, because that's what it's turned into. And it's really missing what really matters.
Right, right. So now tell me a little bit about your work. You have a consultant. You worked as a consultant. Like, tell me a little bit, like, in what capacity you work as consultant? Is it a political, or is it um, in other genre? Tell me a little bit.
It's as a writer and editor.
Okay.
It could be, I edit for a lot of professors. I worked for the city for a while. I mean, it's very varied. I've done work for physicians, graduate students, ESL folks who want their English to be better for a report or an article or whatever. So it's all those things. And I'm looking for work, by the way. So
Oh yes.
I will put that plug in for myself.
Yes. If you need,
I'm not the girl that can afford to retire yet.
yeah. So I wanted to introduce to us another excerpts. There's so many great writings in here. Let's see, where did it go? Which section? Okay. Okay. So this is from, let's see, chapter 14. Who are we anyway? It's in the second page of this. I'm reading a book called This Book Is Not a Safe Space, The Unintended Harm of Political Correctness. Okay, so by Corinna Fales. We need to learn about respect and honor the what's of each other. We need to celebrate our differences, love ourselves, and shine brightly in the world as the individuals and groups we are. But I also want to get to know who you are. And I don't want who you are to get lost in the crowd of what's identities. I hope we will add the content of our character and deepest trust parts of ourselves to these political identities. Each replace them, even replace them. I hope we will include our who in our what. I hope we will love and honor ourselves so much that we deeply know ourselves to be far greater than the sum of our hearts or our whats. And I hope we will remember that everyone is a who, not just a what, and include each other in the human cycle without the artifice and authority of PC, which is political correctness. Wonderful. So
Thank you.
You want to elaborate on that a little bit?
I mean, that's basically what I think. I feel like the idea is very simple of what we really need to do, in my view. I say in the book, we don't need to all like each other, because guess what? We're not going to. We don't need, to agree with each other, because I hope we are not all going to agree, because otherwise we've got a problem. All we need to do is practice what's called the golden rule, which is do unto others. And that can be hard because there are cultural differences about what you do and all of that. I get that. But I feel like if people have the intention of trying to work this out and of honoring what people's intent is, if it's a good intent, even if things come out wrong, that's what matters. And that who you are if you get to who you are, you can find common ground with people that you thought you never could find common ground with. And I know that's true. It actually, my hair cutter is a Trump supporting evangelical Christian. And she read my book and she said, I loved your book and it changed me. And I said, oh, because she wasn't exactly my intended audience, you know. And she said, because I'm always saying, you know, oh, those bleeding liberals. And she said, and I really don't know who they are because I've never actually gotten to know one and found out who they are instead of what they are and what they think. And to me, that's what humanity is about. It's not about a bunch of cultural identities, although that is part of who we are. But it's not my soul. It's not who I am fundamentally. And I feel like if we could get to that piece, we might be able to hear each other when we're trying to say things that somebody disagrees with and just get them to understand at least where we're coming from, even if they continue to disagree, fine. But I don't know how to ever get there if all we're focused on is the what's and our differences instead of our common humanity. I mean, people keep saying this. It's awfully hard somehow to get this message across lately because people are so, and I think people get very invested in continuing to think whatever it is they want to think, no matter what happens, unless there's a real change of heart, unless they have a different kind of experience. And it makes it that piece, which is, for all I know, is in our DNA. It makes it very hard, but it's the who, and you're much more interesting than whether you're what I am. I'm Jewish. I'm a woman. I'm first generation. I'm all these things, but really, you know, I'm me, and it's beyond all of that stuff. Right. And that's all. That's what I really like about people. I really like to get to know who they are, a lot.
Right. Thank you.
Y'all are cool.
Hey, I wanted to thank us. There's actually a lot of people with us, and you have a lot of audience. And I want to thank Pat, Halle. How to say the last name? Pat is here. Yeah, and Nick Rivera is my young friend. He always supports me. And by the way, this live talk show you made to 90 episode. Today is the 90th episode.
Oh,
I have hosted since March 2020, since the lockdown. So
well, congratulations, and I'm glad that something is older than me.
Well, you look very, very young for your age. And yeah, I want to thank Judith, Halek. She made a comment. And then also Tama Singh, Sterna, Tama Singh.
Tamison.
Oh, okay, Tamison. All right. Yeah, thank you guys for making comments.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Nick Rivera says, yes, I love it. What a testimony. Get to the heart of who someone is. Get so deep, not just what someone is. Yeah. Can you see the comments? I can bring them up.
Now I can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I haven't seen the other one. I saw two before, and then not.
Okay. Yeah. So each computer is slightly different. Oh, then we have more. Judith says, 9 is the number of universal humanitarian compassion through our lessons, with the 0 behind is being the godness for us.
Accentuating the 9 energy.
Yay, Judith! Thank you. Congratulations. Yes, awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So please, now I'm not sure. Do you have a YouTube channel, Connie?
I don't. I have a couple of YouTubes that are out about the book and stuff, but no, it's true. I should get one. We talked about that and I forgot.
Yeah, you should have one. So this YouTube channel is Juhl Media. please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I think this week I made it to 4,700, which is a big jump.
Wow.
Yeah. So thank you. And now let's any other chapter you would like to share with us, or any other thoughts you want to read about it?
I hadn't planned on anything, but there
Okay.
were some comments I had near the end that might be useful here.
Okay. I have a question.
Well, then go. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question now. In one of the chapter you talk about trans woman, yeah, sexual chapter 20, if transgender, why not trans race? Very interesting. Like people, people who were born in male, they want to be female. People born in female want to be male. And I have friends, um, they also express they are not really sure if they are female. Maybe they know they're 90% female, 10% is male. So it's a very interesting topic, and I just watched a very nice film. It's called The Garden Left Behind. It's about trans trans women, how being abused. The whole subject is very deep. So now you related to is why now trans race. So it's very interesting. Would you like to talk about that a little bit, please?
That's probably the most controversial thing in the book, I think. You think so too, right?
Kind of.
I was just, I was on the New York subway going to and from work, and I just was thinking about all this stuff. And I suddenly thought, well, wait, why is one being championed? I mean, really championed. Not only it's okay, but like we're in favor of it. And the other is not even a possibility. And I'm not saying it ought to be a possibility. I'm not making a value judgment. Although I do have my own thoughts about it, but somebody said, oh, well, in other words, you think that trans race should be. I'm not saying that. I'm trying to point out the complete lack of logic in this. And that when I started to sit down and think about how it made any sense, it made none. Gender is deeper than race. You could have a species without racial differences, but you couldn't have them without some kind of gender differences. So why is the one being celebrated and the other absolutely prohibited? And go read the book, and then you'll see what I think. Because I was really stunned. I mean, maybe that sounds dumb, but I was just sitting on the train and I went, wait a minute. Yeah. If you're going to go by PC, just think in terms of PC. This makes no sense. So what's up with it? Why is it like that? And it was some of the most interesting thinking I did in it, because it was just completely fresh to me. I mean, I didn't read what anybody else had to say about it. Which I didn't do with any of this book. I just sat there and thought about it. And the more I thought, the stranger it was.
Yeah.
And it continues to be. So.
Yeah, very interesting thought. Very interesting. Yeah, it's very provocative, But it does raise a issue, or raise this topic more openly, I think, to being inclusive, because people do have reasons to change their initial sort of a God-given their body, and then until then we don't really know. I can't relate to that, but then I have no problem of I do not judge them. And so
But I think judging them is one thing. I'm for people being accepted as they are, period.
Mhm.
The thing that I do have a problem with, and that is happening, is that people are being pushed in that direction, and children are being told to question it when they weren't necessarily questioning it. And I honestly know of some horror stories of people who, like, their 5-year-old daughter said one day, because this kid Jimmy in the class was getting a lot of attention, she said, "Oh, I feel like being like Jimmy." And they literally took her out the next day, and got her a boy's haircut and all boys' clothes. And so accepting people for who they really are or feel themselves to be is one thing, but doing this whole other thing that's going on, I'm not cool with it. No.
Yeah.
I think you're
So
causing mayhem where there's none needed.
yeah, I have a question for you. In public school, uh, now that you can have a restroom with a gender free, right? Some of the public school, and some of parents, especially Asian parents, they're very concerned about that. So, what do you feel this issue?
I think I'm a little old-fashioned that way. I mean, I think it does have to do with when I grew up and my age. It's like when I grew up, we didn't have co-ed dorms. We didn't have co-ed bathrooms. We didn't, things where the girls were over here and the boys were over there. And there's a certain level of comfort that I personally have when I feel like there's all girls there. And I don't know. I mean, where I was working for the city, that's what they were doing. So if there was somebody transgender who came in, mostly they were going, I think, in their own, like the disabled bathrooms that were for just one person or something they were using. It makes me somewhat less comfortable. I don't think that is necessarily how I should feel. And I don't mean anything against the person. I mean, it's kind of just it's my comfort zone of how I was raised in my time, and what I became used to. So it's no offense to them. But I also do understand when people have feelings about it, and I don't think they should be put down for having feelings about it either. I don't think that thing should just go one way, which is all towards the trans person and all against the other people. I feel like listen to what people feel, listen to what they have to say, see how to work this out so that you have a human connection, not just a policy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Okay.
Right. And then maybe you could go to the middle ground. I don't know if it's possible, just have built a restroom for male, female, and then something in between, so maybe the parents will not feel. I have no idea, but I was just thinking about this issue. So
it's a difficult issue for a lot of people. And then a lot of people, it's like, oh, I don't care. So,
yeah.
So, I'm just being honest about when I grew up and what I'm used to. But yeah, it's not against anybody.
Yeah. So let's see. Which chapter you talk about the computer? I couldn't find it. Like we're all buried into. Let me see. Where did it go?
The transbots one. The transbots. I don't know which one you're referring to.
You were talking about like we're so our head is all stuck into our phone and our computer, and then we're not really talk to people.
We're not.
Remember,
everybody keeps saying that, and I don't know what's going to change it.
I know. So I labeled, I don't know where to go, but anyway, just it is like amazing. In the subway, you look at people, they're all look at their phone, or even when people go on dinner, and in a restaurant, of course, now the pandemic is going on, the restaurant business is a little bit slower and not very many, but even that, people look at their phone. I put my phone next to my seat, sort of, peeking on it to see if so. Bad habit, yeah. And so, how do you feel this issue about human connection is, I think, getting less now? We're all connected with the screens.
I agree. And just at the time when we could be more connected because of worldwide, it could facilitate worldwide connection. I'm really scared, I'll be honest, because I feel like so much seems unreal to people. And if you saw, I don't know if you saw The Social Dilemma on Netflix, it's excellent. And anybody who hasn't seen it, please see it, because it's how we're being consciously, intentionally manipulated by social media for money. And it falls in with exactly what I was saying before about things being bought and sold and who has the power. And I just, it is intentional on their part to make you want to look at that phone. And they do everything to make that be so that you feel like you need to look at your phone. And I don't know how to unhook ourselves. I mean, you know, at this point, it's one of my biggest concerns, frankly, because I think it's so unhealthy for people. I mean, that is a value judgment. That is, yeah, that's a judgment. And it's true. And not only that, but unless we can really come out of COVID with a willingness and openness in our hearts and a willingness to listen to each other and get to know each other, I don't know about the future of the planet. And I don't know whether it's going to happen. If it doesn't, we're sunk, as far as I can tell. I feel like that's where our hope lies. Mm-hmm. In addition to, I'm not talking about, you know, their green initiatives and this and that, but in terms of sort of a world community of people, that's what we need to be doing right now. And I hope we do. I have no idea.
Yeah. There's good and bad, right? When you have the phone and smartphone, and you get, you can pretty much do everything on there. You can write articles, or you can read articles, you can get news, you can watch YouTube, and you can watch movies, and you talk to friends, you can, do video. There's a lot of good stuff that you can do, but I think we lose some simple things. We lose penmanship.
That's
People
true
don't know
too.
how to write, right? People don't know how to write anymore. Yeah, we lose face-to-face conversation skills. Yeah, I don't know. People don't sit. Of course, this is a pandemic. We don't sit with each other, but I'm talking about beyond that. Just having a conversation with someone. Instead of just texting someone or. So it's a communication. I think it always suffers, in some degree. We have a guest. Our audience wrote a comment. Can you see?
Oh, Keith Fox.
Yes.
Obviously, Hamilton is about, guess who hasn't seen Hamilton? It's about trans race. Everybody loves it, but can you imagine what would happen if they cast a show? There's a typo about Eldridge Cleaver and Malcolm X with white actors. No opinion on my part. Oh, good point. This is no opinion on my part, right? You get what he's saying, right?
Yeah.
But I literally have never seen any version of Hamilton. And I don't even really know what the story is, except that it's about Alexander Hamilton. So that part is a little lost on me about the trans race. But the rest, the point is well taken. Absolutely. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you.
And thank you, Pat Halley, before I saw you when I couldn't speak up.
Oh, yeah. So great. Here, Jade says, Jade Mess, how do you say that?
Mess this?
I don't know. Who's your friend?
Oh, maybe it's Susan.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I don't know. Because I don't know that
I really enjoyed this interview. So, could I ask you, now you live in North Carolina, you moved there for what reason? And do you know anybody there when you moved there?
I did not know a soul here.
Why move there?
Never stop being crazy, clearly. I mean, who picks themselves up when they're 74 and moves off to where they don't
Yeah.
know anybody? But I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Well, and partly it was because I had to leave. I told you I did never belong to New York. I really am a country girl. And I couldn't, I needed to semi-retire. I couldn't do the grind, and I couldn't afford to stay there. Could not afford to live in my apartment. I had to go somewhere. And at that time also, I thought my grandson, I thought they were going to be moving to Australia. So it didn't matter where I moved, because that's really most of my family, except for my brother in Iowa. And I am not moving to Iowa where it's 40 below zero. So, this checked all the boxes of what I want. And I said, okay, I moved. It's just,
Wow.
and I really like it, because I'm not in a bubble anymore. I mean, I am in a different kind of bubble, which I actually find very uncomfortable, because this is the most middle class white existence I've ever lived. And I'm actually not comfortable. It's very strange for me. And I can see how people, if you grow up like this in this very kind of privileged place, you have no clue what's going on unless you really make a point of going to find out. I just feel like not a single person in my little senior community has gotten COVID, not one. And so it's just very insular and very isolated. I mean, that is a good part, don't get me wrong, but it's just very strange. I lived in Harlem, I lived in Newark, I lived in Lincoln. It's very odd, but I feel very blessed to have a back porch and sunsets.
Oh, that's nice.
Because I love nature, and to get to walk in the woods, and I miss people up there. I miss y'all up there in New York.
So tell us, we may have some people from your old neighborhood, which is Morningside Gardens. Could you say something to them? Or also, I like to hear you. I mean, you moved away because it is expensive to live in the city. Tell us a little bit what's good about Morningside Gardens, please.
Oh, you want an advertisement now?
No, okay. No, not really. I want to hear a professional writer. What do you say?
I hate to tell you, but professional writers are not, in case you haven't noticed, professional speakers. But I did love Morningside for being, mainly for two reasons. One is the diversity, which is really wonderful. It's not so much anymore economic diversity, and that part has gone. And that I'm sad about, because it did start out that way. As a middle income development, but with no income cap. So you had people that had much more wealth and people that had much less wealth. But certainly it's very diverse, and that's changed since it privatized, because people are greedy everywhere, including at Morningside. And it's true. And, but it is still relatively very diverse. And I really like that. And I love the garden, because I'm a nature girl. So those two things, I mean, to be able to live in that kind of fairly tight neighborhood, I don't know how it is now, with a lot of people knowing each other, very well positioned geographically to get to the subway and to get all over the city where you want to go, with the diversity and with the garden, it's quite exceptional. It really is. Now I'm making myself want to move back. No. No, I can't afford it. It's not even an option. Plus, I can't deal with the city anymore. No.
Yeah. No, I cannot imagine you come back. So, all right. So great. I wanted to let's see, just to read a little bit about close to the ending chapter. Let's see. Oh yeah. So 24. Altogether, she has 28 chapters. This is 24. It's called Straight Up.
Oh, yeah? This is the page number or the chapter?
Chapter. Okay, chapter 24.
I don't just sit around and read my book day after day. Okay.
Page number 99.
Okay. I got it.
Yeah. Why don't you read?
Oh, okay.
Just that page. Yeah.
That page.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, good. Thank you. these days, I prefer to talk and listen to anyone who is straight up with me, no matter what they think. I'm ready to do that, and I know we can talk to each other if we really want to, because I've seen it. But it will be difficult, and we need to have the will and the courage for it. I'm Jewish by heritage. Some people automatically hate me for that. Maybe you do. People have all kinds of stereotypes about Jews, some of which are based on reality. But what do you know about me personally? Have I done anything to you? And what do I really know about you just because some people call you a redneck or a nigger? We will never know what's true about other people unless we become more interested in exploring who they are than in assuming we already know. Let's see who I think you are and who you think I am, not who we have decided we are before even meeting each other. Time and again, we think we know who someone is. Time and again, uncomfortable conversations have opened doors to understanding and mutual respect that no one thought possible, let alone the participants themselves. But real conversations cannot take place in a culture that prohibits honesty if it's not PC, and where people are more interested in sticking to what they have always thought and want to continue to think than they are in listening to anyone who doesn't see things that way. We are deeply mired in our own thought grooves.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is beautiful. Beautifully said.
Thank you.
If the world, if many of us can think that way, the world will be a much safer place, a much peaceful place.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I'm hopeful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So before we end, thank you guys for being with us. I think Keith has another question for us. Let me bring it to you.
Oh. Who was that guy who played the Comanche in this? You can tell Keith is old. Who knows John Wayne, Keith? Come on. Not remotely passable as or in fact an Italian. How about Marlon Brando as an Italian? He's a funny guy.
Yeah.
He's a funny guy.
Is Keith a gardener?
Is he a gardener? He does do gardening.
Is Keith a Morningside gardener?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
No.
All right.
He's not.
Great. So, anything
he's
else?
He's cool anyway, though. It's all right.
Cool. Hi, Keith. Thank you so much for your comment. Love hearing you two laugh. That's what Tamash said. Thank you. It's so funny. So, yeah. So, now I have one question. Is a little political. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. What do you think of Andrew Yang running for New York City mayor?
I love it. You know that. I told him when I found out that Ching was for Andrew Yang, I said I got really interested in Yang. And then I was thinking, am I cuckoo? And then I heard that, good, I won't be able to say his name because I'm getting old. And he's in my book. Wait a minute, I've got to find him.
What's his name?
Chappelle, Dave Chappelle.
Oh, yeah, Dave Chappelle, yeah.
And Dave Chappelle was going to, I don't know if he was going to stomp for Yang in South Carolina or not, but I know he was supporting him, and I know he was going to do something for him in South Carolina. And so I thought, well, that really interested me that Chappelle was there. Now, I'm not an economist, and I really don't get all the financial parts, but I feel like I like him. My gut likes him. As a person, I think he's real. I think he's down to earth. I think he's smart. And I think, therefore, his ideas would make some sense, even though I can't quite figure them all out. I really liked him a lot. And if we're running for mayor, I imagine, unless something else changes it, that I would be happy to vote for him. Of course, I was happy to vote for de Blasio, too. So, That's all I'm going to say about that. That's all I'm going to say. I really do. I think he's I think he's genuine. I think he's. I like him a lot. So yeah, I don't mind saying that, but I can't vote for him because I'm not there.
Yeah, you're not New Yorker anymore. So for those of you, I was a young gun for Andrew Yang's 2020 presidential candidate. So I went to like 12 cities, including in Iowa. I was in Iowa City. I was in Iowa City. I was in Waterloo, I was in another place. It's called D. Tell me, why do they call
Des
DES?
Moines.
Why do
Des
they
Moines.
why do they say that? Is that a French?
It's
Do-
French.
I would call this
No,
Moyes.
it's Des Moines.
So
See why
weird.
I don't want to move there, even though it's near my brother. See.
Oh yeah. So I had a little dosage of Iowa when I canvassed for Andrew Yan and made a. You guys, I make a
Oh,
little pitch about my documentary. I made a documentary called My Yangan Diary, which is not open right now, but you can see the trailer on
oh,
Juhl
good.
Media. Yeah, I just made a trailer like 2 days ago. So there's a trailer now.
Ah,
Yeah, it's
oh,
a 2 minute.
good.
Yeah, people loved it. Yeah, the trailer is really well done, I think. So
Good.
anyway, yeah, well, I think we touched a lot of areas. Thank you so much for
Thank
talking
you.
with us. Yeah, sharing your smartness, sharing your knowledge, sharing your talent, and your book. And people go buy the book, please. It's on
Please
Amazon.
do.
It's not even $10. It's under $10. So
Purposely.
nowadays, you cannot do anything with $10. You go. I heard that you go to like what do you call McDonald's. It's like 12, 14, $16. To buy a hamburger. Yeah. Okay. Great. Well,
Thank
thank you guys. Yeah. Please buy her book, buy Corinna's book, and subscribe my YouTube channel. And thank you so much, guys, for being with us. And be safe, please. Okay,
thank you all,
so
and
yeah,
thank you, Ching, so
thank
much.
you. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. We're gonna
Pleasure.
end this broadcast. Bye
Okay.
now. Thank
Bye.
you.